Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show this week. We've got a good one for you as usual. We've got former AFL wide receiver Rodney Blackshear on the show to talk about his football journey, talk about his path, and talk about some of the ups and downs of his arena football career. He played with the Texas Terror. He played with the Houston ThunderBears. He even played with the Grand Rapids Rampage, where they won the ArenaBowl in 2001. I want to say it was 15. World of Football guys are going to roast me for that one, but he's most recently, the head coach for the Dallas Bulls of the National Arena League. So they're starting to get in gear and start to get everything in order for their inaugural season in the NAL in 2026. So got to chat with him a little bit, and happy to have had him on the program to talk through all of that. Not a lot going on in the arena football world outside of that, so it's going to be a shorter show than usual. But before we get into the interview, please make sure you're following us on all of our socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB. Links to all those are in the bio in the description below. Make sure you're joining the conversation. We're on Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, all the things and stuff. We're there. Come say hi. Come join the conversation. Also in the description is the link to our affiliate link to Royal Retro. So if you see here over my left shoulder, sorry, podcast listeners, we've got code Off the Wall for 10% off your total purchase at royalretros.com. So go ahead, click through that link, browse what they got. They got some really cool throwback Arena Football League stuff. If you're into the UFL, some European League football, they got all sorts of stuff there. So again, code Off the Wall for 10% off there. We've also got t-shirts on offthewallfb.com. The first ever Off the Wall t-shirt is here, and it is for sale. So go check it out. Go place an order if that's what you're into. And we'll be sending some of those out later this week. And depending on when you get your order in, you might get it a little bit sooner. So we got a nice little bundle that we're going to be putting the t-shirts in, and slipping some stickers, some other cool stuff. So appreciate all the love and support on everything so far. And the merch has been something that people have been asking about, and we finally delivered on it. So before we dive into the interview, there were some video issues on Coach's side that we had to get figured out. So video is not going to be available for the entire interview, but the audio came through. So podcast listeners, you're not missing out on much. YouTube listeners or YouTube watchers, it's going to be like a podcast for you today. So here's the interview with Coach Blackshear. All right, on the show this week, we have the newly announced head coach of the Dallas Bulls of the National Arena League. He spent time in the original Arena Football League in the 90s and 2000s, and he's a proud alum of the undefeated Texas Tech Red Raiders. His name is Rodney. His name is Rodney Blackshear. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the show. How are things going in your world?
Oh, great, man. Like I say, the Red Raiders are doing well. I got a new job. My NFL 49ers shocked the world on Thursday night. Right. So yeah, it's been a good weekend.
Yeah, it's everything's coming up, Rodney, right now. Everything's coming up, Rodney.
Right now, everything is great. That's a good sign for things to come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your football journey and how you initially got involved with arena football.
So again, I as you said earlier, I played collegiate football at Texas Tech University, and my senior year, some of my teammates that didn't go to an NFL training camp were actually on the team for the Dallas Texans. They were the Texans at the time, and I was in camp with Miami, but I knew my teammates, and before we went to mini camp, our training camp, I was able to go to a couple of games. I'm like, man, it's an interesting game. You got guys playing receiver and DB and, linebacker that normally would just play receiver. And so I was like, and I was in high school, I played multiple positions, quarterback, receiver, punter, punt returner, safety, cornerback, linebacker. So I'm like, man, that's a game I could probably get into one day. But but obviously at that time in my career, I'm like, no, I'm an NFL guy. Right. And so, fast forward, I got released from the Dolphins the next spring. I was getting some interest from some NFL teams. I worked out for a few teams, and the Dallas team reached out to me. They had Tyrone Thurman, who was one of my teammates at Tech, also played arena football. He was on that team, and he was like, "Hey man, come down. We need some players." And so I'm thinking, get on a receiver. They bring me to camp, and actually Pat Thomas, who was the secondary coach for the Houston Oilers, when they lost that epic game in the playoffs of the Buffalo Bills, he was the defensive coordinator. And so they brought me in to say, I'm just explaining it to you. I know you're a receiver. I know you well, but we're not bringing you in to play receiver. You got to go out here and play defensive back, and you got to cover our best guys. in order for us to sign you, we bring you in on a 2-day workout, and if you can prove that you can play that position, we'll give you a chance. So obviously, I had to go out there and prove myself, and I played defensive back. Didn't know anything about the game. Just one of the guys was like, "Hey, just don't give up the inside leverage. When you line up, don't line up head up. If a guy gives you a double move or rim the wall, it's your second defender." Now he's telling me all this on the fly. So, of course, the first couple of plays I didn't listen. I'm Deion Sanders. I'm just trying to jump every route. But I picked it up. About the third drill in, I said, "Okay, don't give up the inside." That was the first thing. I'm a coachable person, so I didn't do that. So was able to get signed. Was there for the last 4 games of the season. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to play. And so, moved on that next year. I was in camp with the Birmingham Barracudas of the CFL. Didn't play for them as well. Fast forward another year, I'm in Houston working. I'm a Houston native from Houston, and I got a call. Tyrone, again, he's in Hartford, Connecticut, playing for a team called the Connecticut Coyotes in the Arena League. And they invited me to camp. They said I got to get there by a certain time. Of course, flight from Houston to Hartford was a little bit more expensive than I could afford at the time. And so I caught a train, and I was on the train, 3 days to get there on time just for a trial. Yeah, so my journey is a little different. Got there, worked out for him, got the chance to play receiver this time, balled out, but wasn't signed. They said, "Hey, don't leave, just stick around. We know you came from a long ways." Coach Tunn was the offense coordinator, and Coach Rick Buffington was the head coach. And this is when I started learning about the politics of the game. Even though I saw some of that stuff in the NFL, I was thinking with arena football, they're just going to let you play. If you outperform a guy, you should play. So long story short, I slept on a couch in a 3-bedroom apartment. It was 3 guys plus myself. So I slept on a couch for 7 weeks, practiced every day, bust my ass, never touched the field. Coach Tunn believed in me, but he didn't have any control over personnel. And then Coach Stout, who is now has been coaching, a head coach in Massachusetts, and I think he's assistant head coach now. But he was one of the guys that really looked out for because again, I wasn't getting those meals that the guys were getting that was on the contract. When they had certain appearances, I could kind of go and hang out. But if it was a sanctioned deal, I wasn't even fed or paid. I just was hanging out. And Coach Stout fed me a couple of times and looked out for me. Thought I was a really good player. Actually, one game, he thought they were going to sign me because of how well a week of practice I had. And he made my uniform, had my name on the back. And he's like, "Why you not get dressed?" I said, "Man, they even said I can't get dressed." Yeah, right. And so that was like story. And so the next year, in 1996, they bring a team to Houston. And I'm like, okay, this is my hometown. I've been denied for 4 years, 3 different teams, 2 different leagues. I said, this time I'm just going to play. I'm going to find a way to play. So Coach John Paul Young, who coached linebackers at Tech when I was at Tech, was named the head coach. I'm like, shoot, it's on. I got a guy that knows who I am, know I can play ball. Yeah. I go to the tryouts. I run the fastest time I've ever run in my life. I ran a 4.39 and a 4.41. My agent couldn't believe it. After that, it's like my career really started. And played 4 years in Houston, made all arena, all Ironman in 98. Had a couple of injuries in 99 in my shoulder. So I sat out the 2000 season because I got hurt. I had surgery at the end of the year. Came back in 2001. Clint Dozell was my quarterback. He had been spending time in camp with the Chicago Bears. He came back to the Arena League. I had an opportunity because that's the first time we had unionized and became free agents. So I went to had opportunity to go to Arizona, who was an established team, Tampa Bay, established team that always won, and Toronto with Coach Stout. But Dozell, thing about a receiver, once you have a good relationship with a quarterback, you tend to follow him where he goes. Kind of like Devontae Adams following Aaron Rodgers. So long story short, I went to Grand Rapids. I was a veteran now, and Dozell's like, "Man, you need to come down here because, bottom line, how we do things. If you can teach these guys how to be unselfish and play within the game, it will be fine." Because when we played in Houston, the 98 and 99 season, at that time it was 2-way guys, but we had 5 guys catch over 50 passes. And we had 2 other guys that were at 42 and 46. So we had 7 guys within our rotation that weren't all receivers that played just exclusive offense only. And we were 2-way guys playing all over the field. We had over 50 passes caught. So that was the system that I played in. And when I started coaching, same system. You know, when I coached in Lubbock, I had Alvaz Robertson, I had Robert Gill, who ended up playing for the Arizona Cardinals Superfast, John King. You know, when I was in Albany, Georgia, with the Southwest Georgia Wildcats, I had 3 receivers go over 1,500 yards, 25 touchdowns.
Jeez.
And two of them had 100 catches, and one had 118. I had 2. So the thing is with this game is what I learned, and my philosophy as a coach is to make sure the guys understand if you play within the system and do your job, everybody eats. And so those are the type of players that I'm recruiting as I'm speaking to guys. I'm letting them know you may have some impressive numbers and you are a good player, but in my system, we're not going to have one guy with a ton of catches and then other guys not doing anything, because that keeps the defense. They know where the ball is going. I like to keep the defense on their toes and really thinking like what's going on. And we interchangeable. We all play our role, and every game somebody's going to eat. Sometimes 2 or 3 guys may eat within the same game because we put the defense in a position where they don't know what's going on.
So heading pro, you mentioned the process of like getting involved with the arena scene. It was still a very new sport when you were getting into the mix with it. So like you were kind of there during the formative years of what the sport was going to be and what the league was going to be. As you kind of got in the mix, you didn't really have like players today. They have 20, 30, 40 years worth of footage they can review to see how the game is played. Yeah. How do you kind of learn a new sport on the fly and kind of just not making it up as you go, but you were kind of setting the standard every day?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I was in, the first year in Dallas, I played mostly defense, but I was an offensive player. And so when the light really clicked for me, again, this is back then, being a two-way guy, it's like I realized everybody runs similar, pretty much the same plays. Right. You just got to figure out what each team likes to run more. And so once that happened, the game slowed down so much. That was like my second year in Houston, like 97. Then 98, I exploded on the scene. I was all arena, all Ironman, because I had figured it out. Right. And what I did always as a teammate, and I played in Grand Rapids, we won the championship, and a lot of those young guys that was on that team, I helped them out. Basically they were there to take my job. But I even did that throughout my career when I was playing at Texas Tech. I had a guy named Lloyd Hill who also played arena football with me. He was an All-American receiver coming to Tech. And of course, instead of being upset that we just signed a guy that's All-American, blah, 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 I actually helped him as much as I could, mentored him. Right. Because the way I always looked at it, I feel like my abilities is going to allow me to be here. When I was playing and not getting a chance to play in Dallas and Connecticut and Birmingham and the CFL, it was guys that kind of pushed me off to the side. I'm asking questions because I just want to be better, and they didn't do that. So when I became considered a veteran player, I helped everybody. I had a guy, Kato, that played with me in Houston, ended up going to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's like, he was my best mentor in professional sports. Rick Ross, who played with us in Grand Rapids, Terrell Shaw played with us in Grand. All those guys were like, man, you helped us, and we was, like, they were tripping because they're like, man, this vet. The coaches basically told us, y'all, you're coming to replace some of the older players, and I was considered an older player, but I didn't care. I didn't care. I knew that I was going to play as long as I was healthy, because the value I brought to the team, and the way I practiced, and I did everything, in my opinion, the right way. Our defensive coordinator, defense coordinator and GM. One of the linemen told me, for the championship game, he said, "Man, Black, I know you don't know this, but Coach Smith used to always tell us when practicing. He always said, look, you guys don't know what y'all doing sometimes. What y'all need to be as professionals. So y'all look at Blackshear. I said, every day at practice, he's the same. He's consistent. He said he don't get too high, he don't get too low, but he consistently does his fucking job. And that's how he said it to him. So y'all need to learn how to be just more like him." And so that was a compliment to me, not knowing him. And that was actually a precursor to me eventually becoming a coach, not thinking about it. But that's what I was, And it just the transition from being a player, and once we won that championship, I tore my ACL. I went back to Texas Tech, was a student assistant under Mike Leach to get my degree. Funniest thing is, while we were on the plane, on our trips, it was always, I sat in the middle row. To my right on the aisle seat was Sonny Dykes, who I also went to college with. His dad was my head coach. And to my left was Art Browse, who eventually hired me in my first job, full-time job as a college coach. And so it's just a unique deal where you just kind of sitting there and you soaking up information and learning as you go, and trying to find your space in this coaching world. And once the couple of years I did in college, and then I got a chance to be a head coach in arena football, and it just was a natural fit. It was simple and easy to me. So I had chances kind of to go back to college when Sonny first got the offensive coordinator job at Arizona. The owners in Lubbock was his brother, Rick Dykes, who was also our running back coach when I was at Tech, and Bart Rager, who was one of my teammates. They gave me me and Robert Hall was my D coordinator, gave us part ownership in the team to stay. And so I'm like, well, and I was, living in Lubbock, making about as much as I was going to make in the college game because I was going to be a GA. And so I stayed, and then we folded the next year. I'm like, God dang it. I blew an opportunity. But it happens like that, and that's
right. Yeah.
That's okay. That's part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to hear the last year or two of your playing career, you were kind of that coaching figure already. So it makes sense that you made that transition into coaching.
Yeah, it was just something that I always did, because again, I've never been a selfish player. And that's what I tell guys as I recruit them. Same thing with my coaches. I've been fortunate to be a head coach, but my demeanor is as if I'll do anything it takes for my team to be successful, even if that means taking stuff away from myself to put it on other people's shoulders. I try to develop people. Coach Mann, who was the coach for the Bulls, he played for me. He coached me in college. I mentored him, and he ended up winning three championships. And he gives me a lot of credit because, I went to a couple of those games, and during the season after I stopped teaching in the summer, I would go to practices and games, and I wouldn't say anything to anybody on the field, but I would give them tips. So, hey, man, don't forget, you got to do this too, or you got to do that.
Right.
Lucas Davis, who after we left South Georgia, when I first started teaching, he stayed, and he was head coach there. They went to championship they played 3 championships, won 2 in 3 years. And the same thing. So when I was coaching him and other guys, Robert Hall was my D coordinator. When I was the offensive coordinator, when we had our defensive emphasis day, because that's how we split out practice. That one day is offensive emphasis, next day is defense. I would do anything but let him run the whole show. I said, you run it the way you want to run it, because someday you should be a head coach. And those are some of the things that I will do continuously, because you don't want to have guys on your staff that are 100% yes men. You want guys to understand your philosophy and what your coach is supposed to be, but you want them to grow as coaches. And so I don't plan to do everything myself. I want coaches that are willing and want to work, want to get better, and then the players feed off of it as well. So
yeah, and it's funny to hear some of the names you dropped with Sonny Dykes, Art Briles, and then being under Mike Leach for that time. It's like, man, the football world is so vast, but also very small at the same time.
Yes,
when you
absolutely.
think about it.
Oh yeah, and again, I met Stoops, who's with the UFL. I know the D coordinator for the San Antonio team, Will Reed. I know the head coach for the DC Defenders, Al Vance Robinson. Coach Harris is the head coach, but Al Vance Robinson played for me many years. He was the receivers coach, and he sent 6 to 8 guys from college and there to the NFL. And I mentor, we talk all the time, and he's one of the guys that I lean on when as I'm doing my recruiting here, I'm making these players aware. I have these relationships. We're right here in Dallas. We have the UFL in our backyard. If you go out and do what you're capable of doing, I have enough of a relationship with some of these coaches where you can get at least a look. I'm not saying you'll get signed,
right? Yeah.
But you'll get an honest look. But you got to put in the work. And I'm not going to just throw your name out there just because I like you.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you can't perform on a certain level, I'm not going to recommend you. I told you earlier about Anthony Lynn, who's with the Commanders now. Everywhere he's coached, I went to training camp every other year at least. When he was the head coach, I went every year when he was with the Chargers, because then again, that's not only my college teammate. We were roommates. I used to babysit his son, who is now the USC defense coordinator, and Danton Lynn. I used to babysit him. We were roommates. So it's crazy, like I say. So when I tell guys that, I mean it honestly, but the reality is, it's not on me to get you an opportunity. It's on you and your ability.
Right.
And I know what a professional athlete practices looks like. You got to put in the work. And when I say put in the work, I don't mean practicing, not just to be practicing every day. It's practice with purpose.
Right.
Everything we do has a purpose to it. And so, those are the type of players I'm recruiting. I've had, again, obviously when you get a head coaching job, and I've done it before, you get 1,000,001 phone calls from coaches and players and everybody that sees the film. You got to decipher through it. And so I go back, especially at the receiver position. I tell guys all the time, I don't really care about how many catches and all that. That's not what impresses me. I like to look at your film and see a few things that I think you can do well or not do well if it fits what I do. Because everybody runs a lot of the same plays, but everybody teaches it different. So, and you got to have the right fit, because the reality is receivers are a dime a dozen. Defensive backs pretty much are a dime a dozen.
Right.
Especially in the league we're playing in. When I played arena football, everything was man. We played zone very little. Now you can drop 4 guys in coverage, so you can't just be running and out athlete that person. You got to outsmart them, and some guys don't quite get that.
Yeah, and kind of going back to that the network. How cool was it to be able to continue your pro career with your college QB, Robert Hall? Like that had to be pretty sweet amazing. To be able to.
Yeah. So we had me and Robert Hall, Lloyd Hill. We had Roman Kinley, who was a defensive back that played at Tech. We had Sammy Walker, who was a cornerback, but he's a middle safety, and he came in my class as well. That played at Tech, and so we were all on the same team. And we had Fred Petty, who was our nose guard from Tech. So we had we had a cheering section in the back of the end zone. They called it Texas Tech South. And how they do the announcements. So at the very end, they announce the receivers and the quarterback. And so when Robert was starting, they would name, they would do Bernard Holmes, who played at A&M Kingsville. Then they'd go Lloyd Hill, Texas Tech, Rodney Blackshear, Texas Tech, and your quarterback, Robert Hall. And the crowd would go crazy. It was amazing. And that's what we said. It's like, we're still in college, but now we ain't got to go to class. And I said,
right.
I said, man, y'all have to go to class anyway. It's just crazy how.
Yeah.
And so we did that for almost 4 years together, and had a great time. I mean, we still, to this day, we talk about it. And even my oldest child, she remembers some of those moments, and she's like, that was the most fun I had as a kid when you was playing, and then you start coaching, and she was able to travel with me. So yeah, it was an amazing time. But arena football was really special, and it did a lot of things for me and my family. And so always been able to get back into the game, because even again, I hadn't coached since 2018, but the last 4 to 6 years, I've been helping behind the scenes with Coach Mann, Larry Hendricks, he's the D coordinator with the North Arizona team. We've had a relationship for years, and so Coach Stout, all those guys that with the arena ties. I'm here in Dallas, and they always look for players, because Dallas, again, it's the reality. It's a hotbed. Dallas has been able to put together teams of local talent only, and win in different leagues. Now, me personally, I like a lot of the local guys, but I'm looking for talent from everywhere, because what happens with the local guys, unfortunately, they already have jobs, they work, and they have to be not committed, but I want a certain commitment. And if you're focused on not what we're trying to do here, it'll kind of, in my opinion, hinder our success as a team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, you also played a lot of your career with Clint Bilzell, arguably one of the best arena football quarterbacks of all time. You played with them and with the Terror, the ThunderBears, and then the last season with the Rampage. Mm-hmm. He was tremendous. I don't blame you for hitching your wagon onto him and kind of following him along.
See, hello now. Remember, he called me.
Yeah, there you go. He hitched his wagon to you.
Because the truth, and this is a true story, and he can tell you this. So his first year starting, he wasn't going to start. We had another quarterback from Louisville named Marty Lowe. He played the preseason, first game. So during training camp, both of them were really competitive. Marty was a little bit better. And what I mean by that, Marty, I think in that first game, he was 23 or 24 passing. And then he tore his ACL.
Oh,
and then
man.
Just like Tom Brady, here comes Dozell. And
Dozell stepped up.
And so me and Lloyd from Tech, back when we played in the Arena League, we had incentives, and so we used to call, and this was before the movie Players Club came out. We used to call Dozell Dollar Bill. I say, because you're making us money. I say, Dollar Bill, you better get the ball to me, right? So to this day, he's still Dollar Bill to me and Lloyd Hill, and he laughs every time because we text him. He's and call him sometime. I know he's busy when he's coaching college football, But we would always, like, me and Lloyd would text us, "What's up, dollar bill?" And he's like, "Man, you guys are crazy as hell." But that's our guy, you know. I mean, we go,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, this is funny, because I had played for Coach Tun in Connecticut, and I knew the offense already, how he called certain plays and formations. And so when he first took over in '97, sometimes he'll come in, he'll call the play wrong. I said, "No, I got to be this way." "Oh, that's right, that's right." You know, so I mean, I was, again, not knowing I was gonna be a coach, but I was such a technical person mentally. I'm like, that don't sound right. It got to be this. "Oh, okay, yeah. So
Right.
I did maybe 2 or 3 times a game, and he would laugh, but he mastered it. He knew what the hell he was doing. Put it that way. But I
Right.
always take
Yeah.
pride in those moments. So
Yeah, that doesn't hurt to have a little quality assurance in the huddle, just to make sure everyone's on the right page.
That was my job. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, it makes sense you got into coaching. It seems like you were just kind of wading into that water naturally. What were some of the learning curves with coaching this unique style of game that you had to adjust to over the years?
In arena football?
Yeah.
As a coach, nothing. Because I came, and I say that because I played it. And so what I would always do, me and Lloyd Hill pregame, we would interact with, we would make bets with our offensive linemen that we can do certain things. Like we would play a 2-on-2 against Murray Garrett and Mitchell Benson, 2 big defensive linemen. They're O-line, D-line back then. And so we would run offensive plays like receiver routes, and we would cover them, and then we would flip around and we would do some drills that they did and see who did it better. So I was always a questioning guy. I would ask me, "Hey, why do y'all do this?" "Oh, we do this because blah, 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 blah." "Or why y'all do that?" So what I learned as a player is basically the defensive lineman is the receiver trying to get to the quarterback. A receiver is a defensive line. Basically, my goal was to get to the end zone.
Yeah.
The offensive lineman is like a defensive back to keep him out of there. So it was the same concept mentally, but just different ways of doing it. And so when I started coaching, like my first year in the arena league, I was in with the Dorados in Rio Grande Valley, OC. I left there and went to U of H with Browse. But then after I left U of H, I was coaching in Centex in the intense football league with me and John Lyles. So John Lyles gets into it with the owner of the team and cusses him out. So he gets fired.
Yeah.
I take over. We don't have a budget for coaches anymore, so you guys kind of do it yourself. I said, "It's fine." So I called offense and defense. I coached the O-line, the D-line. How I did my practice is I would rotate days. One day I would have the O-line, D-line show up. We would go through our Indy, our one-on-ones, and as we're getting done with some of the inside run stuff, I would have the receivers show up and DBs. As they're stretching, we would come together. We would do team. I cut the linemen loose. The receiver DBs would finish up with 7-on-7, 1-on-1. And it worked. We won. We went to the playoffs, got one game away out of the championship.
Yeah.
So that was my first year as a head coach. And I'm like, man, if I got coaches, it's gonna be really easy. The hardest part was when I was calling the plays, I was always on the field. So as I call a play, I'm looking, but I'll tell my quarterback and say, "Hey, come over here. What y'all see last series?" All right. And then when I go to offense, same thing. But it made me sharper. So I learned how to process and call to it. And in my brain, if this happens, I'm gonna call this play next. If this happens, I'm gonna call this play next. So offensively, I'm always 2 or 3 steps ahead. Like I kind of have an idea because I watch enough film and I know that if I do a certain formation, they're gonna be in this coverage. So if I see that same coverage, I say, okay, I can go back to that later. But it's one of those things that you learn on the fly. But it was easier for me because of that very first experience as a head coach, because I had to do everything.
Yeah.
Equipment manager, I shined the helmets up, putting stickers on the helmet, everything.
Literally everything.
Yeah.
Nothing you weren't doing. Yeah, and it makes sense when you break the game down into it's just a series of one-on-ones, like wide receiver versus DB, DL versus OL. It's just one-on-one matchups across the board, and who can win the most one-on-one matchups on any given play? That's usually who's going to walk away with the game.
That's it, 100%.
Well, flash forward to today. As we mentioned at the top, you were announced as the head coach of the Dallas Bulls in the National Arena League. You mentioned you haven't been involved in coaching the arena game for a little bit now. How did this opportunity come about, and what excites you to get back in the mix?
Well, again, like I was saying with Coach Mann, I was going to help him the last few years. I was teaching. I just retired this year, or last spring, and so I would always come out, but I didn't want to change what they were doing. So I would just come watch practice, wouldn't say anything to anybody but my guy, the head coach. And so the Dallas Bulls, when I think the AAL or something a couple of years ago, and then they set out a year looking for a new league and doing their finances, all this good stuff. Yeah. And so Coach Mann went and coached the Iowa Woo. And he had opportunity to choose if he was going to come back and coach here or stay in Iowa. Well, he was building something in Iowa and felt pretty comfortable about it. And so he's like, Coach Black, I think I'm going to probably go to Iowa. I'm going to talk to Dr. Hudson, and, he may call you, he may not. But, I told him you'll be in good hands if you give him the job. So, he finally decided that he was going to go back. And, Dr. Hudson had already interviewed some other people. And it was interesting because when he called me, he finally called me that evening. He said, Coach Blackshear, I know you don't know me. I've heard of you, but I was told by several people before I make a decision on this job, I should reach out to you first, with you being here in Dallas. He said, I've talked to six different people. Some of them I was asking them about interviewing for the job, and they, just say, hey, you might want to talk to Coach Blackshear first. And so these are guys that I knew, but I didn't know he was talking. I didn't know at the time. He said, so I kind of figured out, who is this guy? Why would somebody bring up a guy, And so we talked and had a really good conversation. We met the next day, negotiated some things. I told him how I do things, and some of the things that Coach Mann and I do are very similar. But the reality, Coach Mann created his own system. He ran with it, and I'm a little bit more of a traditional coach when it comes to things. I don't need as many coaches on staff. I don't feel, not that he had too many or not, but a lot of coaches I noticed have a ton of coaches. There's too many voices for the players. So bottom line, we negotiated and we talked about some things. And the best thing for me personally is that the fact that I'm at home. I have a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and I didn't want to leave to go coach anywhere else. I've turned down jobs every year, truthfully, just high school to, other teams, a couple of college opportunities. I just don't want to get into the grind again. And the fact that I live right down the street from where we're playing and the community that we're trying to embrace, which is Dallas and part of South Dallas, the city wants to do some stuff. And I've done some things in the past already with the city. And so I'm excited about it. I'm part of the NFLPA here in Dallas. They're going to come out and support, and they want to do some stuff. So it's not just the football side of things. It's a bigger picture in a city that needs it, in a society that needs it. We're coming together. We're trying to do something for an area that needs that little boost. And so that's the biggest thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. It's a good fit, not just on the field, but off the field too. And I think that gets lost on some folks in this arena football community where they're why didn't Coach Black go to San Diego? Why didn't Coach Black go to Washington? It's like he'd be 2,000 miles away from his family. Like that doesn't work for everybody.
It worked, no. I mean, I did that before, like I said, when I was younger and divorced and had a child, a single parent. But it's just not. It was not for me the last few years, because again, the opportunities kind of popped up here and there. And like I told him, if it's not going to be me and the family, then I'm not doing it.
That's fair. Yeah. And then big ups to you for having that and having it work out in the end.
Yes, so 100%. Yeah.
So you mentioned the coaching staff. What's the process of building out that coaching staff look like? Is it just a barrage of calls and text messages with people you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, combination of both. Again, I got some guys. I won't name any names yet, but I got guys that want to come in and learn, that want to do some things up within my organization. But the thing is, I want guys that are kind of familiar with me. They know who I am, whether you played for me or played against me. Like in the fraternity that's arena football, you know your guys. And what I mean is, like, me and Eddie Brown, we're great friends, but we're two different entities when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
Barry Wagner, great player. I talk to him all again. Same thing. It's just some people are different. Some people are the same. Hunky Cooper, great guy, great friend. Some things are similar, some things are different. And so it's like you got to find guys that fit who you are. Like I tell players all the time, in any sport, the players are usually some version of the coach's personality and thoughts and processes. So if you can't be similar to your coach, sometimes you can just get out athlete people, which is fine. But from my perspective, I want my guys to think and not act like me, but they have to be thinkers on the field, because I give responsibility to players. Every quarterback that I've had, when I coached them on every level, high school, when I was a high school coach, but especially in the arena game with professionals, every week I would tell them, I need you to write down, don't talk about, but write down 5 plays that you are comfortable running this week based on our scout. And during the course of the game, I may be on the field and say, hey, you're going to call this drive, use your plays. Just tell me what you're running so I can, know what it is, but just run your stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons Robert Kent became a success, in my opinion. He's told me that as well, because I did that with him. And then after a while, I'm like, shit, you got the next 2 series. Now you got the second half. I mean, we started doing the game plan together, because that's what professional athletes do.
Right.
You know, you want to be able to mix with your coach. Same thing with the DBs. When I coach secondary, I would say, hey, we did the whole thing. I'm gonna let you call the defense. Look at your wristband. Look at the cover. Look at the route. Could we do it based on sometimes the formation and the down and distance? Look at your wristband, because I would literally write out everything for every player on the wristband and do that sometime. But when they're smart enough, I say, y'all know, I say, make the call. You've been doing it long enough. You sitting there watching the same, we had the same conversation. But what it does, it gives players confidence. Yeah. If they can go out and do the things without our help, then we're just the extra for them. And now that helps you be able to move up to the next level, because that's what's expected of you in the UFL and the NFL. Coaches make a bad call, you may have to make an adjustment. Make the adjustment. And if we make a mistake, that's on me, because I gave you that's not on you if I tell you to do something but it fails. That's on me as a coach. And that's how I coach my guys. But I don't want no renegades out there. The Lubbock was the renegades. I don't want no renegades out there just running stuff that makes them successful and not make the team successful. So that's why you have to mold and recruit the type of guys that fit what you do.
Right. Yeah, not just improving their on the field play, but improving that football IQ. Right. That's just so crucial.
Yes, 100%.
So what's next for the Dallas Bulls? Obviously, you're in place now. I see some folks are starting to get signed. You're building out the coaching staff. What's the timeline looking heading into 2026?
Well, we're still. I hopefully have another 5 to 10 signed in the next 2 weeks. We have a tryout coming up on the 25th. We're going to do a press conference. We're going to have the dance team tryout. I'm planning. Some of my buddies reached out to me from Houston that I played with. They own a couple of facilities down there that we can train. They're train pits. They want me to have a tryout there, so we're looking to have one in Houston.
Okay.
Next month, mid-month. I'm not sure which date yet. Probably right before Thanksgiving, and we're gonna get it rolling when training comes. We're gonna have another. I think we'll have one more in February, but by then the roster's gonna be set pretty well. I'll be able to. They have a college gridiron showcase here every year in Fort Worth or Dallas, depends on the city. Every year it's college age kids only. And they come and they work out. XFL teams, UFL teams are there, and any guys that are young and willing to come play for us, we're gonna probably offer them a contract. So we're trying to have a good mixture of veteran players and some rookies that are hungry, because the reality is sometimes you get some veterans they don't want to listen because they think they know the game more than you do, which is fine. But that's why when it comes to recruiting, if I can't have a good conversation with you and let you know my thought processes, and if you don't agree with, that's fine. I had a player that I'm recruiting right now. He has a contract offer from me. He hasn't signed it yet, but he's telling me about other players that he think will fit. And so he told me about a player that I already knew, and like I told him before, I said, the thing about me, you're gonna hear about Coach Blackshear. I'm honest. I'm not gonna sit and pull your chain or lie to you or I'm gonna recruit you, but I'm gonna recruit you the right way. So he asked me about the player. I said, no, he can't play for me. He's not my type of player. And he said, wow. I said, hey, and again, I said, just remind him, I'm honest. He said, no, I can respect that. Because I don't, just because that might be your boy. But feelings are not involved when it comes to football.
Yeah.
Like I tell guys, my buddy Lloyd got traded. And when I played in Houston, back in the old days, the newspaper, it was a transaction. You could look at the back of the paper, it said transaction. So as a coach, when somebody gets cut or released, as a player, I used to always say, man, transactions will be made, so we're going to have a moment of silence. Everybody take their helmet off, we put our head down. I said, then we move on. We go back to work.
Yeah.
I said, that's reality. I got cut 3 times or whatever, so it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's our way of showing respect. Transactions will be made. Let's have a moment of silence, and then we're going to move on and get back to work. Yeah. And so that's kind of funny, but not. Like, Coach Mann, he would always say that when at practice, because y'all guys don't understand. When I played, they look over at me. What's your word, coach? I said, shit, transactions will be made. Because that's you're constantly trying to improve your team.
Yeah, that's of
So
course.
don't get comfortable. We bring guys in on 2-day workouts. We give them an opportunity. We in Dallas, so it's a ton of talent that's sitting on the streets.
Right, yeah.
If once we get our roster set, and if it's a guy that was at the workout, and I tell guys after the workout, hey, you should work on this or you work on that. If they come out and they take your job, because guess how I got my opportunity? I was given a 2-day workout. So why would I not allow somebody else to do what I was able to do?
Of course, yeah.
And it keeps you guys humble because the roster is never set until the championship game is won.
Yeah.
That's when it's over. Other than that, or when the playoffs start and you can't bring anybody else in, that's when it's set. Until then, we're going to keep on getting better.
Yeah, it's a big time. It's a big time iron sharpens iron situation, right? Where like you can't be complacent, can't be comfy.
But I've noticed that in the indoor game and arena game, because there's so many teams out there now, it's just like college and NIL. If you're not happy here, guys just want to go somewhere else. Or I'm gonna go over here because y'all ain't doing it my way. Well, you got to find a team that fits what you do. I mean, and it's not about numbers. And that's why I tell guys, if you really pay attention, guys that are getting signed up to the next level, not always the guys that put up the best numbers, but they're usually the guys that's playing on a team that's winning.
Yeah.
Those are because they know this, they come from a winning culture. They may know the coaches. They know the coaches are coaching. They're not just calling plays. There's a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Well, this has been great, Coach. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat through your journey, chat through things with Dallas. I know a lot of folks that watch the show, they may not necessarily have a team or have a dog in the fight with the National Arena League, and with the Dallas Bulls having their inaugural season coming up. Give us a quick little sales pitch. Why should people be a fan of the Dallas Bulls?
Because you're going to see a well-run, disciplined team playing the game, having fun, doing it the right way. We're going to have a event, and a football game is going to break out. Because I understand the entertainment value of what you put on the field between the plays as well as what you do during the plays. We're going to have a great environment. We're in a vibrant city. I have players calling just because they want to move to Dallas because they know that this city is amazing. It is. I mean, I'm from Houston, and Dallas is amazing. I mean, all these companies are moving here. So, we're going to be entertaining on and off the field. I have an owner that's committed to winning. He's going to try to do everything in his power to help us win. As far as allowing me and my coaches to do our job, and he's going to do his end on the business end. And we're going to try to be here for a while. They're actually building, supposedly in the next 2 to 3 years, they're supposed to be building a facility there on site. So if we do what we're supposed to do, we'll be one of the premier programs in all of indoor football, no matter what. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, it all starts with this inaugural off season and that inaugural season. And I know you've got lots of phone calls and text messages to send. So like I said, I appreciate the time and best of luck heading into next year.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Horns up, Dallas Bulls. And I don't do the horns up because I'm the Red Raider. I do the guns up, but I don't say hook 'em. I say horns up, and I do them sideways like this.
Don't do the hook. Don't do hook 'em. No.
I know better.
Big thanks to Coach Rodney Blackshear for joining the show and talking about his football journey. I'm excited to see how he can build out the Dallas Bulls organization and see what they can do in the NAL in their first year. That org has had some issues in the past, but talking to Coach Blackshear off camera, he wouldn't be in it if he didn't think that they had what it took to make it across not just the starting line but the finish line as well. And he has had a ton of coaching experience in the arena football game, so I'm excited to see what type of squad they're able to put together and what they're able to do in that inaugural season. So they're ramping things up and getting everything in order off the field so that when March comes around, they'll be able to kick off their NAL tenure with a bit of a bang. Like I said, it's a light arena football news week. The UFL of the outdoor game kind of dominated the news cycle this past week with some of the stuff they got going on. The Minnesota Monsters signed a ton of people in the AF1. IFL teams are starting to fill out their rosters. So we'll dive into some more specific player announcements next week. And as some more things should be getting announced in some of the other leagues or some of the arena leagues, AF1, IFL very, very soon. NAL might have some tricks up at their sleeve, and There's some whispers in the wind that the TAL might be announcing another expansion team or two this month as well. So it's a super exciting time, a lot of hurry up and wait for arena football and indoor football fans, but it should be an exciting time here in the next couple of weeks as things start to get solidified and we can start that march to the 2026 season. So really appreciate all the support. And again, thanks to Coach Blackshear for joining the show and talking shop about his arena football career and what's going on in Dallas. If you're on socials, please make sure you're following us at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. Wherever you are, we are. And trying to get a little more active across all the socials, not just focusing on a couple. We're close to 1,000 followers on X, which is pretty cool. So if you don't follow us on there, please make sure you do. And we're also close to 1,500 on Instagram, which is crazy to think about. So yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure you're rating the show 5 stars preferably. But hey, do your thing. And yeah, that helps get the show in front of more eyeballs. And we'll have to see. You know what, next week I'm going to see where we're at charting wise and see if we can, set some attainable goals for ourselves. But there's only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend about 45 minutes here listening to this show, watching this show, and doing all that means a lot. So really appreciate the support. Again, Royal Retro's code Off the Wall. Use the code in the bio or in the description below to get to that and to use that code to get 10% off your total purchase. And then offthewallfb.com. We got the first ever Off the Wall t-shirt on there as well. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. And yeah, let's have a great rest of our week. Hopefully we'll hear some good news sooner than later in arena and indoor football land. And take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.